we're not in like Amazon 2016 anymore, right? Where all you can do is just use the software, you go in and you use those usual parameters that everyone puts in, this amount of reviews and this amount of searches, and everyone finds the same products. It doesn't work that way anymore, in my opinion, in my experience for the long term.
Welcome back to my channel, guys, and thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you're having an awesome day. So today we're almost a month after Prime Day in 2020, and during Prime Day, Sellers Alley together with YLT Translation hosted a 48-hour megathon because Prime Day was 48 hours. Basically, they did 48 hours of live streaming, which is insane. And I had the pleasure of also being interviewed by Yana for the megathon. So this video is me sharing that video with you guys. It's a pretty long one, but it has so many golden nuggets. It is a chit chat, so it's not a tutorial, but it's a chit chat all around just real issues that people have when they sell on Amazon, and also obviously about product research, because that was the main conversation. But the interesting thing about this interview is that an hour and a half or so before the interview, I realized that one of our products had been flagged as restricted. So you can actually see in the first 10 minutes that I speak about that. I didn't know that throughout the day I'd have more products being restricted, and I didn't know the actual reason for it yet. At the time, I just thought that it was just somehow being blocked. And later on, I realized after having the listings down for a long time, that it was actually an attack by a competitor. The next video I make for YouTube will be sharing with you guys everything I went through, but I think it's just interesting to see how I reacted to that in the first 10 minutes of this interview. The rest of the interview is all about product research and a little bit about PPC. You don't actually have to be in front of your computer. Put your AirPods on, go for a walk, get out there, get some vitamin D, or do whatever you like. You don't have to be in front of the computer. It's enough to just listen to it because it's a chit chat. She's asking questions and I'm answering. There are a lot of golden nuggets. I share a lot of things that I haven't really shared on YouTube before. So I do encourage you to watch all of it until the very end, because you never know how it can help you in your Amazon journey. So we're about to get into it. Before we do, I just want to say thank you to Sellers Alley. They are a PPC agency who is actually run by humans and not by robots. So if you are in need of a PPC agency, then I'll put a link to them down below. And I also want to say thank you to Yana. If you're in need of a translation company, Google Translations is not enough for listings. I will put a link for YLT Translation down below. Now, if you happen to not know me, my name is Sharon Evan, and I'm really thankful that you've stopped by my YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, then please do. If Amazon or e-commerce videos in general interest you, this is the place to be. So make sure to subscribe and also hit that notification bell so you know when I bring out more videos. And if you're not on my Facebook group, it was recently voted the 5th best Amazon FBA Facebook group in the industry. It is called Amazon FBA Alphas. There is absolutely zero spamming, and I really encourage you to join the group if you haven't yet. So I will put a link to that below. And if you want to know where we were voted number 5, it was at sellerpoll.com. Because the subject of the video is product research, if you don't know, I also have a product research and sourcing course, which has 0 videos of how to find products using softwares. It's all how to find products using outside of the box type of methods. Some of them I actually share in this video, and also in-depth sourcing materials and sourcing tutorials as well. Plus we meet every single week on Zoom. So if you're interested in joining the course, there'll also be a link to that below. And without further ado, let's get into the interview.
My name is Yana. I'm the owner of YLT Translations, and I'm very, very honored that I got to be the co-host of this super awesome event. I was asked to bring on some girl power on the stream, so that's why I'm bringing on my first guest from the girl power list I have, and that is the most amazing Sharon Evan. Woohoo! Welcome, Sharon. So how's it going? Could you tell us something about yourself, just like a quick intro? Sharon is an amazing, I'll just start. So Sharon is an amazing entrepreneur. She has her awesome FBA Alphas Facebook group. She's a mentor. She's very well respected in our community, and she always brings great value. And she is a no BS type of person. And apart of everything else, she is a big boss lady. So can you tell us a little bit more about you and just go a little bit in depth and get to know guys to know more about you?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm thrilled to be on, especially on such a crazy day. And yeah, so my name is Sharon Evan, and first of all, I am a mother and a wife, but I am also an Amazon FBA seller and a brand builder, and I also do YouTube and run my own Facebook community. That's kind of what I do. That's a little bit about me. And yeah, and I told Yana just before we came on that it's Prime Day right now, and I've had a crazy start to Prime Day. It's not the main subject that we're going to speak about today, but I thought that because it's the day that we should be real about, you know, some things that sellers are going through. This is my 3rd year going through this. So I thought we could spend 5 minutes to share about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw your Instagram and I was like, oh my God, you know, like once you see the picture of the dog on Amazon, you're like, no, you know, it's like, we love puppies, we love dogs, but you know, it's like you know, it's not how you want to handle this, Amazon, like seriously, you know, and definitely something that I think a lot of people have to deal with, unfortunately, on this day and tomorrow as well. So can you tell us a little bit, like, you know, what happened? Can you like share, you know, this is like, this is what I really want to talk about, you know, like the problems and the frustrations, you know, because people don't deal real stuff anymore. It's all like, you know, like when you just put on your like purple, like sunglasses and it's like all nice and let's buy a Lambo, right? So, yeah. So
it's not all it's not all unicorns and fairy tales, and I do my best to bring out, you know, the real side of it to our community. So I did make a Prime Day video for YouTube there a few days ago, and I did say I prepared people that this will happen because it usually happens to me every Prime Day, and there's just no real way to fight it. So a few hours ago, one of our best-selling products that would usually on a, you know, we're at 5 p.m. my time, we're usually on a couple of 100 units sold by this time, would be usually on a couple 100 units sold. And currently it's been flagged as restricted for absolutely no reason. And there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, it's either something internal or a competitor attacking us. And this is the crazy side that you sometimes have to deal with when you have a best-selling product, especially if you have a best-selling badge on a product. And I don't know if you can tell, you've seen me speak many times, I'm sure. I'm not 100% myself because I only realized this about an hour and a half ago. And I was like, oh, it's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen this year. It's all good. It's all good. And then boom, I go and I see that, you know, there's a little dog instead of a listing. And the thing is that usually every year, it's not the end of the world because the specific product has variations. So, and the variations used to carry the reviews. But about 6 months ago, Amazon split the reviews amongst all the variations. And in this specific product, there's a huge difference between 4.5 stars and 4 stars. And the best seller is the one with the 4.5 stars, and all the rest only have 4 stars. And yeah, it's just a frustrating thing to go through, you know, like people see people like us online and they think it's all fairy tales and unicorns, but you know, even I have to deal with this crap on a day like this. And although it's an exciting day and I speak about having multiple products and it's important, it's frustrating when it happens to one of your best sellers.
Oh, I can just imagine, just, you know, and like exactly that, like being your best seller, not like some, you know, unimportant, you know, like tryout product. You don't really actually know what's going to happen with it, but just, you know, this. Yeah, so that must be very frustrating. I haven't talked to anyone today who's had any problems, but I mean, it's LA, like on the West Coast, it's not even 7 a.m. in the morning. So, no, plenty time for I'm not going to say it live, but, you know.
Yeah, it's just starting out. It's just starting out, but yeah, I can see people are writing, oh no. But yeah, and this is the realness. This is the stuff that sometimes you have to go through when you have products that are, you know, best sellers. So the rest of the products are still important products, but this is one of our best sellers for this brand. So it's just an annoying thing to go through. But you know,
right.
I'll get over it. It probably won't be fixed today. It'll probably be fixed tomorrow. Thank God Prime Day is 2 days again this year. But yeah,
I understand.
I thought that we should say a little bit of realness, because the subject that we're speaking about today isn't really around Prime Day, but since it is Prime Day, then I thought we should talk about the realness of what I'm going through right now in real time.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, Amazon lost twice stock for one of my products over the last 2 months. The same product twice. They reimbursed half of the first half, and then they reimbursed half of the second half. And then they miraculously found it 2 days ago, what they lost. And the part that they didn't reimburse us for, but they put it back under the wrong ASIN.
Oh my God.
So I've just had an insane week, a crazy week with Amazon. And it's been a crazy week for me. That's the real side of it. It hasn't been a unicorns and fairy tales week. Money-wise it has, but stress-wise it's just been annoying. So
well, I also think, like, you know, so for us, like, as service providers, like, you know, you cannot deal with that like on day-to-day basis, and like, you know, always around the Prime Day, it's always like such a big mess, you know, like how they kind of run, and like when the warehouse, when the order comes in, they go and run, you know. So I guess like thousands of mistakes happen like in every 15 minutes, you know. It must be a complete madhouse. But yeah, it was I really appreciate you coming and talking about the problem and stuff, because, you know, like a lot of people would not share because, you know, they just want to show that, you know, everybody is vulnerable in this Amazon universe, and it can happen to anyone basically, and it's not a big deal. We're just gonna push and, like, you know, just push through it, and you kind of manage to, you know, like, you find a solution. This is what you're, like, a problem solver, like, you know, this is what you do, definitely. And so it's a really good intro to what we wanted to talk about today, and that is how to find the right product. You know, it's always like, you know, I hear like so many different you know, questions regarding this. People don't know how to start. Maybe they don't like even have like Ppc structure. Maybe they don't even know what's a Ppc, you know, management or anything like it. And, you know, and how do you find your product? You know, you don't have to be like a know-it-all from like knowing all parts of Amazon and how it all fits together. But I'm pretty sure you're gonna give us some really, really cool advice. And I know you have some really special techniques that nobody else has. I've listened to you talk a couple of times about this. It was so interesting. So let's start with my first question to you, and that's so, you know, I already mentioned your, you know, well-known, like, you know, not that common techniques when to how to find a product. So actually, how do you look for a product, and can you tell us some of your unique ways, you know, like, just, you know, throw it in like a couple of those, like, you know, most interesting ones to people listening and to your group as well.
So I think that something important to say is, since we are on a, you know, Seller's Alley is mostly PPC, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So I think that,
yeah,
so it's only PPC. It's just PPC on Amazon, or PPC outside of Amazon?
It's PPC on Amazon. Yeah.
On Amazon. So which I mostly believe in PPC on Amazon. So I think that it's important to say that you can have the best PPC structure in the world. You can use the best agency in the world. You can have the best coaches in the world. But if your product's a shitty product, you know, not even the best agency in the world can save it, right? Yeah. And that's why I think it really does start with the foundation of your business is what kind of products are you getting to in the first place. And we're not in like Amazon 2016 anymore, right? Where all you can do is just use the software. You go in and you use those usual parameters that everyone puts in, this amount of reviews and this amount of searches, and everyone finds the same products. It doesn't work that way anymore, in my opinion, in my experience, for the long term. So the way that I do my product research is everything's outside of softwares. And I have many, many tricks up my sleeve, but the most recent one that I don't really think I've spoken about publicly, maybe I don't think I have, was through careers. So I was making a video about it, and I was like, I really need a starting point. You know, you have to have a starting point. And for me, because I bring out content all the time, you have to make sure that you're, number one, not speaking about products that, you know, you've coached someone on before. Number two, you have to make sure that you're bringing out new things. And the amount of coaching I do, I see so many products. So I was like, well, how am I going to start with something for this specific video? And I was like, let's look at careers. You know, one of my most known methods is looking through hobbies. So you start with, I really feel like on Amazon, just as sellers in general, there's two types of sellers. There's the types of sellers that need to be passionate about what they sell, which is probably like 50% of the sellers. And then there's a type of sellers who can just sell and build a brand about anything, even if they don't love it, right? Like there's men that have built beauty products that don't really care for beauty, right? And women that have built, I don't know, like home improvement brands without even caring about it. But I've realized that it's around 50-50. So if we start with hobbies and we'll go back to careers, when it comes to hobbies, one of the things that I do a lot of the time with people is I first of all ask them, do you feel like you need to be passionate about the product that you sell, or do you feel like you could sell anything? And if their answer is yes, then I start asking questions. So what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What does your wife like to do? What do your children like to do? Because then you're passionate about it. It doesn't mean you have to be passionate. Like, let's just say if someone said hiking, and then we end up going in depth into hiking, and we find hiking products that this person has never used, it's okay because they still care about, you know, the broader product. So the broader side of it. So hobbies is one of the things that I'm most, you know, probably like really well known for. And then through hobbies, you go to Pinterest and you go to Etsy and you start going down the rabbit hole. And I'm like, okay, I've already got videos on that. You know, I already do that. So I switched it up and I started looking at careers. And I'll give you an example. So I went onto Google and I looked at the top. I personally sell on Amazon USA. So I looked at the top careers in America and gave me 100 careers. And I mean, obviously around, I don't know, 40% of it was to do with medical products. Medical careers, like, you know, nurses and doctors and etc. So I was like, okay, let's look at nurses. And then I started looking at nurses, and I didn't know this. Maybe you knew this, but I didn't. Did you know that nurses have to buy all their own gear of everything? Hospitals don't provide them. Stethoscope, you know, the bandage, scissors, clipboards.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. So I was making this video, and then I saw nurses and I was like, let's look in depth into nurses. Like, let's just understand what kind of products they need. Is it all medical? And if it's medical, does that mean that I need certifications, etc.? And then I went to Pinterest. I went to YouTube. I watched some YouTube nurses speak about, you know, what kind of products that they need. And then I learned that they have to buy everything themselves. Like everything, absolutely everything, apart from some of them get scrubs. Everything else they need to buy themselves. And then I looked really into it, and there's like a whole niche there of products that nurses need. And it's definitely something that, you know, someone could build a brand around. And not only that, you can put a touch to it. So of course, the next step, you know, you go to something like Helium 10, or you go to brand analytics and you check the keywords and you make sure that there is enough demand there, which there was. Like stethoscope case, I can't remember, but it had thousands of searches for it, right? And there is more things that you need to do on the validation side of things, but it's really just thinking outside the box and your starting point. So for me here, the starting point was careers. And then I made a list of careers, and then I moved to nurses. And then from nurses, I went and learned everything about them, right? And I mean, I feel like I know nursing products so well right now that I could totally build a brand around it. I'm just not, you know, that wasn't the point of that. But those are some of the ways that I really when I'm doing product research, I am using honestly, most of the time, it's Google, Amazon, Pinterest, Etsy, and YouTube. And when I say YouTube, and it's something that not a lot of people also, by the way, I went into every single nurse group that I could find on Facebook, because then you can go in and you can ask questions, right? When we're Amazon sellers, we're so scared of sharing each other's products, right? Or asking questions about things because we don't want anyone to copy us. But when your buyer avatar, the person who's buying your product, like all of them are in this one group, 90% of them, 99% of them are not Amazon sellers, right? So you ask them, hey, I'm thinking of selling this and this product. What would you buy it? And they answer. So I feel like I gave heaps of tips right there.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more, like, about the groups and stuff, because like we do translations, and then a lot of time people ask us, like, do you do product research for the Japanese market? Like, would this like a bunny cover for my phone, like, would this sell? And I always tell them, like, we don't do product research, but why don't you go to like expat groups that have like Japanese people, and I ask them, like, look, would you buy this product? Not everything has to be done through software and other stuff. I just think that you should go to people who do, let's say, nurses or like medical staff, or people who live in Japan and love to buy like e-commerce, purchase stuff online, and just ask them. So just go to the source. And I just think that's a super smart and a very, very good advice. Definitely. I don't think a lot of people actually do it, because I think people totally forgot about some basic stuff like that, because they're like, what software should I use? Maybe like 2.0 version is out. Like, how much do you pay for this? And they just don't kind of slow down, be like, what can I do that actually makes sense? And it doesn't cost me anything,
It's not even, first of all, you're right about the fact that it doesn't cost me anything, because also a lot of people, when they get into Amazon, maybe they don't want to pay for softwares and things like that.
Exactly.
For me, it's not even the money side. For me, it's more of the side of, like, we sell to people, and not to, like, yes, there is algorithms, and I am extremely analytical, and that stuff matters, but we're selling to people, right? We're people making products for people. And there's also, a great tool like Ppc and things like that you can use, but there's nothing better than going into these groups. Like, as a mentor, if I wanted to just, for example, make a journal, right? For, Amazon sellers. I'm making it up now. Let's just say I wanted to make a journal for Amazon sellers. The first thing I do is I'd go and ask the community, hey, what do you want? What would you want for there to be in here, etc. So that's a really amazing, tip right there that I think a lot of people, like you said, don't take into account as well. That's some of my tips and tricks, some things that are up my sleeve. Yeah.
Very interesting. But like, for instance, like you said it, like it's a really good, like, a starting point. Like, you focus on hobbies, and you go a little bit like doing the research, getting to know like more about the hobbies and why people do it. And I definitely think you should be definitely passionate about what you do, because then you'll definitely, on your way to success. But what about, for instance, like I want to sell tweezers, for instance, like that's kind of my product, what I want to do. And so I think it's an interesting product, for instance. I'm not especially passionate about tweezers, but I kind of think it could be a really cool product, like a stainless steel tweezers. And then, for instance, like, how would you go about like validating this product, for instance? So it's a beauty niche. So how would you sort of go into like validating this? For instance, my product with these tweezers. Yeah.
So I think the first thing is that is important to know about Amazon for the newbies watching us, is that there is no such thing on Amazon as, I just feel like selling this, right? You have to go and make sure that it makes sense. So like tweezers, an example, because obviously I'm on Amazon 90% of my day, is extremely, extremely saturated. But my first thing out of anything that I would do is I would go to Amazon and I would type in the main keyword, which you don't have to use a tool. Usually the main keywords are the seed keywords or the root keywords, the keyword that describes the product, which is tweezers. And I would go in there and I would 90% see that there's like a million different tweezers, right? Now, one of the things that you really need to think about, which comes in hand with product validation is you're going to need to rank somewhere, right? You can't rely on PPC forever. Your PPC is there to push your organic ranking as well. PPC is not there for you to only get sales, right? I mean, PPC is there to push your organic ranking and to get your brand awareness out, right? You're not supposed to have 100% sales through PPC, correct? So you need to get organic ranking. So the question is, can you rank organically eventually for these types of products, A, and B, how are you going to differentiate? We're in 2020, right? And when it comes to selling on Amazon today, in my experience and in my opinion, the days of just putting up a random product and putting your brand on it are over for the long term. Maybe you'll get away with selling well for a year. Maybe you'll get away for selling well for 6 months. But for the long term, like if you're going to be bringing out, you know, beeswax food wraps and jade rollers and all those types of products that you see endlessly every year consistently, more people are coming out. And I'm like, oh, it's not a good product to get into. And they're like, yeah, but I did this and this in the first 2 months. I'm like, speak to me in 6 months from now. Let's see where you're at. Not because I'm trying to bring them down, but, you know, it's those products that are extremely saturated. So for me, validation number one is to go on Amazon and type in and ask myself, you know, I'm going to go with you on the tweezers, right? My first question would be, who can I sell tweezers to? Specifically, if tweezers as broad is way too saturated, but I'm really stubborn and I want to sell tweezers, right? Let's just say that I'm stubborn and that's what I want to sell. I don't care about saturation or not. I love tweezers and I want to sell tweezers. Then I'd first of all ask myself, can I go after a specific buyer avatar? Can I sell specifically to, and I'm just going to make stuff up right now, bling bling girls, right? Like I'm a bling bling girl. I love my pens. They're always bling bling. And like, even though I'm 32, look at my pen with like flamenco on it. I'm very girly. So is it bling bling? Look, you look like you're looking.
I'm looking for my bling bling keys, which I cannot find right now, but they're like, you need like sunglasses. Yeah, I'm totally into bling. Yeah, I want to do the bling bling tweezers, but they have to be like environmentally friendly. You know, that's gonna be like a long-term vision, I think. You know.
So here's the thing, right? And this is the thing people need to know when you sell on Amazon. If I could sell everything I wanted to sell, I'd be like a billionaire by now. But it has to make sense, right? So one of the first things that I do, which I think most people don't do, is I first of all ask myself, who can I sell it to specifically? I make a list of all the different types of people that buy these products. Like, are there left-handed tweezers? Are there tweezers made for people that are left-handed? Are there tweezers specifically made with easier grip for people that have different, like, can I not go after tweezers? I'm not selling tweezers. I'm selling a specific type of tweezer, right? If I really wanted to and there was no other product in this world that I wanted to sell, that is what I would do, right? And it's not what I feel like doing, is there demand for it? Okay, so I'm niching it down, I'm micro niching it, or I'm niching it down. I'm both focusing on a specific buyer avatar. And then the next thing is, are people going to be actually searching for it? Is the keyword demand there? So part of my first validation process is going to Amazon and checking. And if it's saturated, who can I sell it to specifically? And is there? Not always there is, not always there is a specific buyer avatar that isn't saturated. Many, 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 many times there is, but sometimes there isn't. That's part of the first, two things that I would definitely do. And then you want to go in and check that there's enough searches for what you're actually looking at. And can you compete? You have to suss out your competition. Can you compete against them? It's, I have a specific way of, Helium 10 has a tool called Market Tracker, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if most people use it. I was using a different tool before Helium 10 had that tool. There was a company called 𝑶𝒕𝒉𝒆𝒄𝒕 that had a software. And I don't use softwares a lot, but I used to use the software, and then Helium 10 came out with Market Tracker, so I moved to Helium 10. Anyway, Market Tracker tracks your market. It tracks your exact market that you're trying to sell in, and you can choose your exact competition. Like you can choose the exact type of market that you want to track. So that's another great thing that a lot of people I notice don't do. They don't know their market. They don't know their competition. They don't know who they'd be up against. They're just like, oh, but this is a great differentiation point. Yeah, but did you go and check if anyone's already doing it? Right? Like, did you go and see if it's already there? So you have to suss out the competition, make sure that you can compete against them. And yeah, I feel like I'm rambling on. I think that was
no. It's just, you know, keep on. No, I really like what you said. Like, for instance, like I think micro niche is like the way to go. Like whatever you do, I think like the more you micro niche yourself, you make the product more specific. You differentiate yourself. You know, like what's your approach like on your product differentiation, for instance? So what is something that you could tell to you know, beginners and people that are still in the phase of looking the product? I think a lot of people actually don't pay attention to everything we'd be talking about because they're just like that. I want to sell tweezers because, you know, like I have a really cool tweezer. It helps me, you know, trim my eyebrows, whatever, and my friends love it. So gonna sell, and they're just gonna go and be like, let's do some keyword research, and like, well, it's a big demand, and then they just, you know, start selling it. They don't do anything right, and if you follow some steps that you actually talked about, you can definitely be sure that you are going the right way, and that you will not be surprised by some like unknown outcome by like, how do I have like 20 competitors in this niche? And like, why is PPC click so expensive in this category, you know, on this marketplace? So yeah, I think it's definitely very, very important what you just mentioned. And I think it's quite easy to just kind of jot down like those notes and just kind of do the, you know, the steps and like basically follow the guidelines. It's very easy when somebody, you know, breaks it down to you like that, like what you have done. So yeah, the product differentiation.
So in my opinion today, differentiation is crucial. And, you know, a lot of the stuff I say, I don't know if there's people here that follow me, but there's a difference between the videos I made a year ago and the videos I make today for YouTube. And the reason is when I first started, and this is answering your question, it's just a intro to it. When I first started YouTube, for example, or coaching, I lived in the bubble of my brands, right? Because this is a thing. And this is a thing also in Facebook groups. When people give advice, they live in the bubble of their own products, of their own brands, right? And then when I started coaching, and today I've coached over 500 people, and it's one-on-one, and it's kind of like, holy crap, those videos I made a year ago may not be as relevant to what I know today because there's so many different products. Every single niche is different. Some niches, your differentiation needs to be huge, and some niches, your differentiation could just be your product packaging. It really, it depends on your niche, and it depends on who you're selling to. It depends on what the purpose of your product is. It depends on, you know, your branding. It depends on so many different things. But I think the days of saying to ourselves, well, I'll have a much better listing and much better images were over a year ago, right? And even today when people are like, I'm like, well, what's your differentiation point here? And they're like, oh, my images are so much better than the competition. I'm like, but that's not enough. I could go and copy your images tomorrow and I'd, compete against you in a second. So I think differentiation, number one, starts with knowing who you're selling to. If you want to know how to differentiate your product, the first two things you need is one, who are you selling to? Who's your buyer avatar? And two, your competition. What does your competition offer, right? You need to understand those two things. Once you understand them, you can go in and you can understand, does my differentiation point need to be my packaging? And when I say packaging, if everyone's selling, if you're selling a beauty product and, okay, let's go with the tweezers. If you're selling tweezers, which you shouldn't, but let's just say you do. And, and everyone's packaging is just really...
Here's a really good tip.
Yeah. If you've decided that that's what you want and, whatever, then if everyone's packaging is just really simple type of packaging, well, can you make your packaging either extremely high-end bling bling? Can you make your packaging funny? Can the tweezers be used in a way where it can be incorporated with the packaging where it's funny, right? Like, for example, I saw the other day packaging of treats for a dog, And the packaging was a dog, and then the treats, which are white, looked like the teeth in the packaging, like you could see it. And it really stood out to me. And you may have seen, there's also, for example, pasta packaging. I don't know if you've seen it before on like Pinterest, where you can sell normal spaghetti, right? Like normal spaghetti packages, or someone created packaging where the spaghetti looks like hair, like the packaging.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of unique things that you can do with your packaging, right? Sometimes that's enough in specific niches with, of course, the best listing in the world and amazing images. That's a must. That's not a differentiation. That's like something you have to do. So packaging, once you know who your buyer avatar is and your competition, packaging is a differentiation point. Your design. So the design of the product, sometimes changing a little bit of the design is, one of the great ways to differentiate. And then the one thing that no one really talks about, and I try to preach about, is repurposing a product. So sometimes a product, you're looking at a certain product and it's sold for a specific thing, but you can actually sell it for something else. And I'm going to use a watering can as an example. Mm-hmm. So watering cans on Amazon have a search volume of around between 50,000 to 500,000 throughout the year in different stages, right? Watering cans are very, very popular, very saturated. But there's a trend that's been going out for a long time, and you can see it on Pinterest and on Etsy, of this like rustic kind of looking watering can that has fairy lights. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I know.
Or not? Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about that, if you sell a product like that, you're selling here a watering can with fairy lights. You've put two products into one, you're selling it as a product, not as a bundle. That's the product. At the end of the day, you didn't invent anything here. You took a product, which is a watering can, you added to it, the fairy lights, and you've repurposed it as a decor product. Instead of it's still a gardening decor product, but instead of watering can for that, right? So repurposing products is a great way as well for your differentiation. Bundling, of course, is a great way for differentiating as well. So, and creating bundles really have to make sense. In my time, I've seen so many stupid bundles, and you're like, when you create a bundle, you need to remember that you need to go after keywords, right? At the end of the day. And if your bundle, your keywords are totally like opposite, it's not really a bundle. It's not like a value. It's like it's a product, and you've got a bonus to it. Do you get what I mean? Like a good bundle would be like a gardening kit, right? It's all the things that you need. Or if you're creating like a DIY product, and everything that they need is in the bundle. So differentiation for me are things that I've just mentioned now. I'm sure I've missed a few things, but I think those are some really important differentiation points that people kind of overlook a lot of the time. And when we say, my best tip here is that not all products need packaging, right? They don't all need packaging, but I've never sold a product that doesn't have amazing packaging. And I think that it is a lot of the time a great differentiation point. It's not the only differentiation point that you can have. That you should have. You should have other things as well. But amazing product packaging can be, you can make it funny, and you can make it sexy, and you can make it many, many things. You can also create product packaging that can be used, right? Pizza Hut Japan, you talked about Japan. So Pizza Hut in Japan a few years ago had a Pizza Hut, like a pizza box that they had a hole in it on the end. And you know how pizzas come with a table in the middle usually?
Table in the middle.
Yeah. So their table, it wasn't, it was a table, but the top of it was like a magnifying glass type of thing. And you can YouTube this. Anyone watching this can YouTube it later. And then you take the table, you put it in the hole of the end of the pizza thing. You put your phone there, and it turns into a projector. And then your pizza night, you can see your whatever's on your phone, or the pizza thing, the pizza cardboard turns into a projector on your wall, right? It's so stupid that it's genius. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
it's very, and especially because the Japanese market loves all of that. Like that was just a perfect like bullseye for Japanese market, because what you want to do there, like whatever you're going selling or whatever not, you want to make an experience for the buyer. And so the pizza, like the box and everything, it just gave them this unique experience, because when Japanese people like go shopping, they want to have like an experience. They want to go like treasure hunting for discounts. It's all about like experience for them. So what they did, I mean, Pizza Hut, like it's like really amazing what they did, being like such a big corporation. A lot of big corporations completely blew their chances in international marketplaces, because they just think like we are, I don't know, Starbucks. Like, you know, there's no Starbucks in Australia because they failed absolutely miserably, just because they didn't think of, you know, as you also mentioned, the audience, who you're selling your product to. Do they want to buy it the same way they will buy it in the States? So I think that's definitely something to think about, you know, the packaging. And I just wanted to add that, you know, like if you want to make the funny packaging, like the spaghetti hair and stuff, it can go amazingly well, especially if you want to convey that sort of a message in your listing to your clients. If you want to have like this funny like listing, yeah, and I want to be like witty, if you want to be sexy, whatever not, you can totally project that on your package. So you actually have like this complete like storytelling from your listing to your packaging. And I also think it's very, very important to have really good packaging, and that can definitely is one of the things which can help you differentiate your products from others, especially when you're in a highly competitive niche, for sure.
You just said something that's really important that we should speak about for a second, something that's very important. A lot of people watching us may be international sellers. And, you know, so I come from New Zealand, but I live in Israel. And a lot of the people that I coach are from all over the world. And you got to remember who you're selling to. So if you're selling in America, you're selling to Americans. And you need to ask yourself, is the way that I'm packaging this product, is the writing, like I was doing listing optimization with someone the other day, and everything was in grams and centimeters. And I was like, hey, we're selling to Americans. We need to change it to, you know, ounces and what am I looking for?
Ounces and inches.
Inches, that's it. So knowing who you're selling to, not every product makes sense that sells really well in America, makes sense in the German market or in the Japanese market or even in the UK market. Like, you need to also remember who you're selling to as well, and do your research on them, basically. So yeah, to finish off the differentiation thing about the product packaging, also having your product packaging is something that can be used afterwards, like as a storage for the product and things like that. Very, very, it's those small things that can really make a difference. So yeah, definitely.
I just want to add one thing. We've had recently some like requests for Canadian listings and translation, stuff like that. And what I think a lot of people in Europe don't know, that in Canada, you actually use centimeters, use the metrical system. And people will think like it's inches and like in the States, but it's actually not. So it's like centimeters and meters. And this is something I've recently learned, and I was like, oh, this is quite interesting, you know? So you never know what you're gonna find out. And, you know, people would not know, like, I mean, probably they would, but it's kind of weird when you write inches on Canadian listings, and that's maybe something that people will be just like, is this like a, you know, Google Translate or like a Chinese listing or something? You know, you don't want to be, you know, and that also can harm you, you know, and like 10 minutes extra research can only do you good, and it's not going to waste too much time of yours. So Google, just Google is your friend. Just Google Translate is not your friend, but Google is.
Google as a whole. Google Translate, no.
Exactly. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, so you basically, you have you work also with PPC, right? You also focus a lot on that. So what are your thoughts on like when doing the product research and in those early stages of like finding a product? Like, what do you like, how much into consideration do you take like a PPC cost, and how much PPC is gonna work, you know, gonna cost, is gonna be like a big investment? Or do you think like people don't usually take that into consideration when like choosing the product and actually, you know, choosing the niche where they're gonna be selling it?
Okay, so one thing there's two parts to this answer. I'm going to start off with what I don't do. Okay. I know that there are people in the market and the industry that will create like a listing. They'll trial a product, right? They'll bring in like 50 units and they'll trial a product just to sort of get a PPC. How much is the PPC cost going to be? And, you know, what is the CPC for a product, the cost per click for a product, etc. I do not do that. And I don't believe in it because your cost per click, in my experience, will be different and your placement will be different, and Amazon will approach your listing differently. Number one, according to how many units you've come in with. And number two, whatever you're doing now, your cost per click and your PPC is not going to be the same in 2 months from now. If you're trialing a product, and this is something that that a lot of people saw something on YouTube and everyone's been speaking about it, and I'm like, but it's not going to be the same in a few months from now. Like when you trial PPC to get how it is going to be like for that product, with 50 units, with a shitty listing, whatever it is, in general, PPC cost changes. Right now, if everyone goes and looks at their bids, they're probably between like 30 to 50, even 70%, even more than like 150% higher than what they were 2 weeks ago. So first of all, if you're thinking about making a trial listing with only 50 units just to sort of get an idea of how much your PPC is going to cost you, you'll be shocked when you do it properly, because your PPC cost, A, will not be the same. Amazon's not going to approach your listing the same. And B, your conversions won't be the same because you're going to put more effort into, you know, your listing eventually. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is I definitely take PPC into consideration. In my experience, you know, I don't own a PPC agency. I just do one-on-one coaching with people on their PPC. I've seen a lot of PPC reports. I've done a lot of PPC with people. And for me, in my experience, you can't know exactly how much it's going to cost you and exactly how the market's going to react to your exact product until it happens. You can get an idea and you should be putting aside, and in my opinion, a minimum of 20% towards PPC. Mm-hmm. But until you actually launch, you won't know exactly how much it's going to cost you, and you won't know exactly how you're going to convert. And you need to remember that as time goes by, your listing gets better because you learn your buyers. Someone says, oh, you know, I don't know, I wish it had this. You add something to the product. The description didn't describe my product correctly. You consistently, your listing will get better if you listen to your buyers, right, properly. And as it does, your PPC conversion is going to get better as well. The more reviews you have, the better conversions you have, etc. It's going to get better. So originally, I would say to put in a minimum of 20%. That's a minimum. And that's why it's really important when you're taking in your margins, you know, taking that into consideration, you have to put aside, you know, money for PPC. And PPC is something that you never turn off. You never stop PPC.
Never, ever. Yeah.
Ever.
A lot of people still ask that question. And yeah, it's unbelievable how people think they're going to save some money on it, and they're doing so much damage to themselves. It's crazy.
There's people that will say that my product sells without PPC, and then I'll say, well, great. It means that, you know, we just need to get out in front of even more people and you're going to sell even more. There's just different stages in PPC. You know, like when you're at launch, you're not doing the same things that you're going to do when you're at scale. When you're at launch, you're not going to do the same things that you're going to do when you're, you know, trying to have brand awareness and things like that. So PPC is important. I personally have my own ways of approaching PPC. I'm somewhere in the middle of a tiny bit aggressive and not aggressive at all at launch. I'm not over conservative and I'm definitely not aggressive. When I'm launching, I go after the exact keywords that describe my product. I've stopped calling them long tails, because sometimes your long tails are actually the main keywords. Sometimes the long tails are the most expensive keywords, and they're actually the main keywords with the most searches. So my PPC structure at launch works in a way where I'm going after the keywords that are going exactly, like they describe my product exactly. So if I'm selling this blue, people are probably like so sick of this cup. This blue cup, then I'm going after the keywords that are to do with the blue cup, or, you know, or the glitters, or whatever it may be. I'm describing my product exactly. Those are the keywords I usually go after at first to get a little bit of traction. And then I'll start going after the really big keywords. So I am not super aggressive, so I don't put aside, you know, like 90, 60, 70% for PPC, but I think that it's important to know that you have to put aside, in my opinion, a minimum of 20% towards PPC minimum, at least in your first 3 months. Because it takes time to understand how your PPC is going to work for your product. You know, there's no one structure for every single product. Every product's different, which is what I've learned over the last 1.5 years of coaching, because we all live in the bubble of our own products until you open an agency, or you have, you know, you see so many different types of products in your business. I'm sure that you can see that, you know, there's no one thing, right, for everything. It doesn't exist.
No, there's no perfect formula. And I just think that a lot of people are searching for this unique formula, like, tell me this, like, and they don't want to spend time, and it's just like, just give me the formula, I'll pay you like $1,000, and like this is like one of those like instant courses to offer you and promise you. So if it looks like it's super easy, it's probably not gonna be good. You know, it's like if everything is for free, then it's also not good. Like, you know, like Amazon offering free stuff, it's usually probably not going to be that good. So let's all remember the Launchpad program. So, you know, that didn't work well for Amazon. So
I think that anything that comes out of Amazon's mouth on a PPC level, I don't know. I'd love to know what Lazar thinks about this, but I think you should just not listen. You should just close your ears and not listen to anything that Amazon tells you when it comes to PPC, because I just think they're so full of crap.
Well, when it comes to translations and as I said, the Launchpad program and everything, it was also, I'll have to agree with you, of course, on those bases. So let's just, you know, we've talked about a lot of things. I think we have like so many like gold nuggets right here today, like about, you know, like how to start searching, who to address. Like literally everyone can go like sit on their computer and be like, let's search for something I'm really passionate about, and let's talk to some people who know even more about that than me. Like just regular people, maybe finding them in Facebook groups, maybe reading an article about that, blogs and stuff like that. Buyers, avatars, brand building, and similar things are also very important. We also mentioned those as well. But what do you think is very important for selling on Amazon in this year, like 2020, maybe like early start of 21? We also mentioned that, you know, like products are not as they were like 2016. You know, also the algorithm like changes all the time. If you watch like somebody's, you know, a course on like how to sell products like 6 months ago, it's probably not going to be that much up to date. So things change all the time. So what is, according to your experience, and you know, you work with over 500 clients and mentoring successfully, what is important for selling in 2020 as some like top 3 like things that you know these are like trending right now?
I think that one of the most important things when you're going into selling on Amazon now is to know, and this is just a tip, is to know that things are changing every single day. Because, and this is also a tip that's also good for us as service providers, because when people come and like, oh, but you know, something that happened, something that was relevant a week ago may not be relevant next week. And exactly. Amazon themselves are learning how to deal with this pandemic, and things are changing all the time. And the first thing is that people ask me right now, is it still a good time to sell on Amazon? My answer is it's never not a good time to start selling, right? It doesn't exist. So number one, it is definitely still a good time to start selling on Amazon. You just have to change the way that you approach it. I think some of the things we spoke about today are the perfect answer to the question, because none of the ways that I approach selling online have ever been to stick to these little parameters. And I think even
Right.
more now is the time to not rely 100% on a software, to not rely 100% on only the history of something, right? Because I have a beauty brand, and one of the things that we sell was from back in the days, way before it was the way it is today, was face sheets, like face mask sheets. The keyword face mask today is not the same keyword that it was a year ago. If you would have looked at face mask last year, it was beauty product face masks, right? And it's not the same as it is today. So number one, adjust to the fact that you need to understand that things are not the same as they used to be, and you can't use the same methods that you used to use until now. Number two, this is the best time to get into selling online, in my opinion. And number three, I would say is, I don't know, this is more advice for me today because I was really frustrated before I came on here with you. Take a chill pill. When you sell on Amazon, when you sell on Amazon, you need to accept that you have absolutely no control, right? Amazon is in control and not you. And you need to try and not stress out as much as possible. And at the end, everything is figure-outable. You just need to find the way, that's my 3 tips.
You just have to know who to talk to, basically.
You just need to know who to talk to. You need to know who to talk to. That's 100% the answer.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I could listen to you literally the whole day. So, but unfortunately, we'll have to wrap it up. We have a couple of minutes left. Yeah, Facebook is awesome. Very active. Yes, there's Lazar. So thank you so much. So Lazar,
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We are the only girls on this day. I'm very happy it was you. So thank you so much again, and take care. Bye.